Hey, how you all doing? I'm doing a bit of nighttime filming here, so you might see like the lights are a bit different. If you know anything about the phenomenology of spirit, you've probably heard about the Master-Slave Dialectic. This is probably the most known part of the book. To give a very brief summary of what it is, the whole idea is that when two self-conscious beings meet one another, they can't fully recognize each other as self-conscious beings yet. So that means they enter into a struggle to the death. It's basically a Hegelian metaphysical game of chicken where the first person to fear death and just surrenders becomes the slave or the bondsman or the servant, depending on your translation. So the master uses the slave, the servant, as almost an extension of themselves. Like doing all the tasks, doing all the things, all the work for him. According to Hegel, though, the twist is that self consciousness actually develops more on the side of the servant because they're the ones that are actually doing work in the world. And that's where like the development of consciousness actually happens. It's not a happy one. It's not one that is actually great, but it's like actually where history is going to start moving is on the side of the servant rather than the side of the master. And the whole idea is that recognition would be almost a political project that people want to pursue so that all the self-consciousness can officially recognize one another. Can you believe, though, that this section is barely a handful of pages in this more than 800-page book? And yet it is the one that everyone talks about. If you watch any YouTube video, if you go to any article, probably like if it's an introduction to Phenomenology of Spirit, they'll probably be talking about the Master-Slave Dialectic and pretty much nothing else. Maybe they'll mention what dialectics is, maybe they'll mention something about, oh, Phenomenology of Spirit is so hard to understand, but that's pretty much it. That's all they're going to be talking about. There's so much more in this book. I mean, you got things like the pleasure necessity dialectic, you got the law of the heart, the beautiful soul, the interpretations of Antigone, observing reason, sense certainty. There's like so many stories that we could be taking from this book. And there's just so many stories we could be taking from this book, and not just the Master-Slave Dialectic. So I hope that when you watch our discussion on August 27th, you'll see that we're going to touch on all of these discussions that I've mentioned and a lot more as well. And hopefully we'll be able to give those characters, those dialectics, the recognition that they deserve. So tune in on August 27th. We'll see you there.